Hello, folks. Today we're going to take a look at the uh, story quickly and cleaning of uh, a couple comics. First one is Blade #1, November 1998. This is a photo cover that ties in with the movie that came out at the time. The photo cover is by Bob Sebry, and the writer was Don McGregor, Brian Hagen penciler, Sandu Florea inker, and Steve Oliff colorist. So this is a very standard blade hunting vampires type story. There's a very quick cameo of Deacon Frost. Um, Toward the end of the story, it gets a little exposition heavy, and then of course we've got some previews of the Blade movie as it is coming out in the near future when this was published. Um, Overall, the art's pretty good. The story, I find the writing in it was a little unbalanced in that it got weaker as the story went on. This one, Mother Panic Batman Special #1 from 2018. It's a Frank Quitely cover, or Quitely. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but I'm sure you can correct me in the comments. And this is a really weird, surreal crossover, written by Jody Hauser, drawn by Ty Templeton, great guy, and colors by Kieran Smith. And this story, as you can see there, has a character called Mother Partake who secretes a milk that brainwashes people and makes them forget their trauma. And so Batman's been brainwashed and spends most of the story calling himself Father Bruce and trying to recruit people into this church that drinks the brainwashing milk. Of course, he is set free and then sucked into a vortex where the story will continue in another comic. So something people always overlook, often overlook, I guess I should say, is they clean their comics, but they don't clean the bag. So that that Mylar bag or whichever type of bag you're using, it also can collect dirt, dust, oil, things like that. So I've just used a makeup pad all over the place and then an absorbing sponge. And that, in both cases, is just going to absorb any unnecessary finger oils and dirt. And keep in mind, I normally wear gloves, but I had very clean, freshly cleaned hands when I did this, so I didn't worry about the gloves, but normally I would. So again, you're going to take a makeup pad and you just gently rub. This video is sped up, so don't mistake that for it being more aggressive or forceful. Um, Whatever you're using to clean your comics, it should never be getting ink off, only dirt. If you think you're getting ink off of your comics, stop what you're doing. Whatever you're using is either pulling ink off or you're uh, rubbing too hard. So this is just a gentle wipe. It's better to leave a little bit of, dirt, oil, whatever it happens to be on there, than it is to damage your book. Um, Whether it's for your own collection or resale or whatever. In this case, this Blade first issue is one of two different covers tied in with the movie, and it's got a pretty decent resale value on the collectible market if you're into that. Um, Whether this is going to stay in my permanent personal collection, I don't know, because I'm working on some contest ideas. And so in the future, the comics you see in this video are likely going to either be available as prizes you can win or in the store on my website. But we'll talk about that more later. This is a weird moment that I'm not sure what I was doing. There we go. So I've jumped the gun a little bit and gotten ahead of myself because I got distracted by something on the cover that I wanted to remove. But the actual step 2 is absorbing putty. And this stuff has like a Play-Doh consistency. And you grab a wad of it out and roll it into a log. And I have read that you should go in one direction with it. So that's what I try to do, is just keep it going in one direction. And you just roll this. It's meant for paper preservation, paper items. It helps get dirt, oil, stains, and various things off. And you just roll it over the covers, front and back, inside and outside. And if you know of a page inside that has an issue, it has some dirt and oil that needs to be removed, of course you can do that too, but generally attention gets focused on the covers. Now this stuff isn't the same as Silly Putty or plasticine or anything like that. It has a grit to it. It's got other chemicals in it and absorbs dirt. So again, if you think it's taking ink off your page, then stop. You're either pressing too hard, or the comic, it has too much ink on it, which can happen in printing errors. But this putty should start to show dirt. There'll be lines, a grayness to it. And you can tell when you've used up this chunk of putty, when it's no longer good anymore, and when it's absorbed all it can. It'll actually start to stick to things, and it'll leave little like shavings and crumbs behind. That's when you know it's time to throw out that chunk of putty and start a new one. They last quite a long time though. Step 3 is the eraser. Again, don't be fooled by the fact this video is sped up. This is not a hard press. I am barely touching this. It is barely creating any kind of eraser shavings. This is just to remove any additional dirt or stains on the surface that can be removed easily with, in this case, a vinyl eraser. I don't always use an Absorbine sponge at the end afterwards, but in this case I did. And before that, you saw me use a soft brush. Again, something that's not going to scratch the comic, just to get rid of all of the debris from the eraser. And you'll see I'm doing the same thing for Mother Panic. And in this case, this cover isn't all white. So when I get to the eraser, it's not going to be everywhere. Right now, I'm just using the makeup pad. And one thing I do find is that you can get these makeup pads almost anywhere, any department store, any dollar store. I will say that the dollar store ones seem to have a lot more loose cottony fluff coming off of them. So perhaps in this case you do get what you pay for. I find that the better quality ones that cost a bit more don't have that same kind of debris coming off of them as much. So something to consider. So I've used the makeup pad there, and again, some people will say use one makeup pad per comic, throw it out after. I don't always do that. I find it wasteful. The theory is that you're going to transfer dirt from one comic to another by using it again, but I generally wait until I know it looks dirty and gray and get rid of it. So it can last for a few comics. And that's just my personal preference. I have never noticed an issue, but if I do, I'll be the first to tell you and change my methodology. Again, you can see me using the Absorbine putty here on the covers, and again, just rolling it across the surface to pick up any loose dirt, debris, oils. Finger oils can actually contribute to the acidity and degradation of your comics over time. And it is important to be aware that new comics have different paper and ink composition than older comics, so you'll want to be extra careful. Older comics tend to be easier to damage but less likely for ink to come off of. Now you can see here I'm on the eraser stage again, and I'm just erasing the white lettering just to make sure it's clean. And again, you're not indenting the paper, you're not damaging it. It's very light. You're not trying to remove ink. You're just trying to make sure that any dirt that happens to land on those white areas is removed if it can be, and that those white letters look bright as they should. And again, soft brush, and I'm going to work on getting them back in the bag. Ideally, you set the comic on the board and you slide the board into the bag, but it doesn't always work that easily. Now on to pressing. So I'm opening up the press and I'm actually taking some stuff I had setting inside of it off. That is my top layer that goes on top of the comics, and I'm just going to remove everything here so that I can show you step by step. And what I start with is a steel plate. This is a loose steel plate that I've put on top of the bottom layer of my press. You can see there's some corrosion there. That's because I've been doing some steaming of older comics and I haven't been cleaning and maintaining the plate between sessions, and that's something that you should do, and I will do. I'm experienced enough that I can get away with using this and not getting the rust on the comics because I do this a lot. But after I'm done this pressing, I will actually clean and maintain that metal plate and record it for you guys as well. So layer 2 is 2 magazine backboards. Layer 3 is regular printer paper bond. And then layer 4 is silicone release paper. That's paper that's impregnated with silicone. I'm doing the same thing on the other side now. 2 magazine backing boards, a sheet of bond, and a sheet of silicone release paper. Now the reason it's magazine size backing boards is so that it's larger than the actual comic and that we're not accidentally getting any edges when we press the comic and end up indenting it and damaging it more than it was when we started. So it's better to have that material there as a cushion, as a barrier between the heat and the comic. We want the heat to press it. We don't want the heat to burn it. So the next step is prepping your comic. So taking a backboard, and you put a backboard in the center fold of your book. Then a sheet of regular bond printer paper inside the front and back covers. So you've got regular printer paper inside the front and back covers and a backing board inside the center fold. Now I've lined these spines up next to each other because it just fits better on my press and there's more room. And again, the material on top is the same as before in reverse order. So there was silicone, bond, and then 2 magazine backboards. Silicone release paper, bond, 2 magazine backboards on the other side as well. I paused there for a second just to work on a little spot I saw on that cover that I was trying to get off. And then I will resume putting the backboards on there. And then, of course, the final step, layer 4, is another steel plate. And the weight of these is really nice. It helps the pressing. They also conduct heat very well from the press. Now, there are different ways to do this, and there are different types of metal you can get that aren't going to rust like you saw on the other one. I actually have some galvanized aluminum plates that I used to use previously, but they are smaller and they don't fit 2 comics side by side, so that's why I'm using this. Now, I've started the preheat on the press. I run it at 161 Fahrenheit for everything. It is recommended that you generally use 155 for newer comics and 175 for older comics. I just don't like having to adjust it, so I set it in between, and it seems to work really well for me. I haven't had any problems. Never had anything burn, never had anything damaged, and I've never had a problem with the results. So something to keep in mind. And if you have questions about more specific things or things I've said about what era of comics or how to treat and clean comics differently depending on what decade or year they're from, feel free to ask those questions in the comments. I'm happy to answer. So once the press is preheated, I'm going to start the timer. This is a pre-programmed timer. In this case, I do my timer for 666 seconds because it makes me laugh. That's 11 minutes and 6 seconds. The recommended pressing time for your comics is between 10 to 15 minutes. And again, so that's why I chose that number. It falls in between, and it amuses me a little bit. Anything to get a little laugh. So now seems like a good time to mention that this channel, all of my content right now is sponsored by Dubby. Thanks to our partners at Dubby at Dubby.gg. They make jitter-free caffeine beverages that you mix yourself at home. And right now, if you use code BLADE1998, that's a capital B, for a limited time, you'll get 10% off at checkout, and that helps support this channel, my Substack and my YouTube, and to an extent, even my school spelled with a K. Anyway, so I just want to point out here, I have not left this unattended, and I've purposely left this recording during the pressing phase because I want you to see the time it takes and the time elapses, even though this is at double time. I'm still in the room. I'm just not on camera. I'm actually doing some other things. When I say changing, I mean changing my clothes. So this is something important that I want to stress, is not to leave things unattended. Yes, there are automatic shut-off features and cool-down features. Yes, there's a timer for a reason. But like anything else, things can happen, things can malfunction, things can, not work right, and you really should not leave anything like this unattended in your home. Stay in the same room. It's not worth risking anything. While we're here, it's also a good time to remind you to please remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment wherever you're seeing this video, um, either on Substack or YouTube, or even in the school, depending on when and where you're viewing this. Um, so I'll point out too that different metals conduct and transfer the heat differently. These steel plates I'm using, they really get hot in the press. The galvanized aluminum, most of the heat just passes through it, but I find these steel plates get hotter than the actual press itself. But it works really well. The weight works really well. Now, if you're pressing an older comic or a comic that has a weak spine that you're afraid is going to split when you add the pressure, you wouldn't use two steel plates. Instead of the bottom steel plate, you would use a foam pad, and that just helps preserve it. And then you would likely press front and back covers separately. If you're interested in more stuff like this and a whole bunch of other stuff I do, like comics and articles, visit www.mikegagno.ca. You can see me rocking out in the background doing some work on the computer. I believe it was a reggae playlist I was randomly playing on YouTube that day. And if you're not aware, I'm a writer and illustrator, graphic novelist, so I make this stuff as well. I'm a huge comic book lover, comic book fan, and collectibles, and I make all kinds of content relating to those subjects. So if you want to check that out, I invite you to do so. And again, feel free to share and comment. I do my best to try and make sure I read and respond to all comments. Obviously, if you're going to try and get my attention by being offensive or being a dick, I'm probably just going to block you and not say anything. But if you come and you're respectful and you have real legitimate questions, I'm more than happy to help you out and answer things. And here is a little cameo of Willie Nelson, one of my dogs. He needed a little play break, so he has a little cameo in the video today. It's important to take a break and play with your dog once in a while. And here I am just waiting for that timer to run out. I think I mentioned that there's only a minute left coming up at one point. Yeah, there we go, 1 minute. So I'm just waiting, and you'll see that when the timer runs out, even though it has an automatic shut off and a cooldown, I turn it off because I don't want to burn my friggin' house down, and I suggest you don't either. So it's always better safe than sorry. Like I said, things can go wrong. Don't burn your friggin' house down. Now, this is a cold press, and a cold press is when you leave the items in the press after the heat is done or without using the heat. And this is something that can be done at different times for different reasons. Some things only get cold pressed. The reason you do a cold press after the hot press is that if you take it out too soon, any folds, creases, ripples that you pressed out can slowly come back over time. So keeping it in the cold press helps keep that pressing permanent and prevent the paper from reverting back to any imperfections or errors or things that you pressed out. So it just helps it keep its pressing and not waste your time. Now, with both of these books, I still have some work I want to do on them. I was surprised to find that there were still a couple ripples in the cover for the Mother Panic Batman book. And there is one small mark on the top of the Blade cover. So both of these are going to go back in my pile of comics to work on. But when they are perfected to my standards, to my liking, they will be available eventually, either as prizes or in the store on my website. Everything on there is out of my personal collection, and I lovingly and caringly dry clean and press and care for everything in there, and curate it so that if you end up getting it, that I'm giving you the best quality that I possibly can. So I've been struggling with the bags here for a minute because I kept This is the issue with different bag and board sizes, and I kept using the wrong bag or trying to put Mother Panic in the wrong size of bag for the board that it was with. So here are some final shots of the books after that cleaning and pressing. So there's a few things that I'm going to work on. Now, most of the ripples you see in this picture are the bag that the comic is in, but there are some in the top left area, left corner of that cover that I want to press out again. And again, big thanks to our sponsors at Dubby, the makers of Jitterless Energy Drink Powder. If you like coffee, if you like caffeine, but you don't like the negative side effects, Dubby's the answer. And the code BLADE1998 with a capital B will get you 10% off at checkout. And here is our contest for this video. First, you share this video, add the hashtag ImmigrationGN, and tag at the Mike Gagno in it, and you'll be automatically entered to win this autographed copy of my graphic novel Immigration, as well as a prize pack. The winner is selected randomly on August 30th, 2026. If you don't respond in 48 hours, we choose a new winner. That's how it goes. And that prize pack is going to be at least $100 value, $100 plus, and it's going to continue. Got the poly bags and the floor is ready. My favorite